Welcome to Community Connections, Kesha in 8. I am your host, Councilwoman Hodge Hodge Washington. February is Black History Month, and for my first show, I wanted to highlight a couple of important firsts in our city. I would need hours of airtime to cover the many pillars in our community. But today, I hope to introduce you to just a few. Today, I'm excited to welcome Phoenix City Manager Jeff Barton. Jeff first started his career at the city in 1999 as an internal auditor in the city's audit department, then quickly promoted through the department before becoming the city's budget and research director in 2015. He also serves as a deputy city manager, assistant city manager, and since 2021, he has been serving as the Phoenix city manager. Jeff is the first African-American city manager to lead the city of Phoenix, America's 5th largest city. Jeff, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, it's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. First off, who is Jeff Barton?
Well, Jeff Barton, first and foremost, I'm a father, a husband. I've got 3 great children. My oldest graduated from ASU. My daughter just recently graduated from Spelman. And my youngest, he went against the grain, didn't go to Morehouse, he went to Howard. And so that's who I really am.
I just love the fact that your face lit up so much as you were talking about your children. I presume that is your greatest joy.
That is my greatest joy.
Your second greatest joy, I probably would think, is the honor of being the city manager for the city of Phoenix.
It is. You know, I take great pride in that, especially coming up through the ranks. I consider myself just to be the everyday employee. I started, a relatively entry-level position, worked my way up with a lot of hard work, and I like the work that we do. I'm very proud of the work that Phoenix does.
Thank you. I, as a council member, know exactly what you do as a city manager. You tell us what we can and cannot do. You help us budget our balance our budget and procurement and things like that. But can you talk a little bit more for those that do not know your role? Can you tell us what it means?
Sure. City manager wears many hats. To put it in layman's terms, I think 2 things come to mind for me. One, it's like a firefighter, because every day you're putting out various fires that arise throughout the organization and in the community. The other thing, it's almost like a quarterback. You and I were just talking about sports. So the quarterback is responsible for making sure that people are where they're supposed to be and that things are getting done the way they're supposed to be, and we execute the way that we're supposed to be. So as city manager, it's my job to bring to life the policy and the direction that you as an elected member and the rest of your elected body you want to do for the city, the direction. And it's my responsibility to kind of breathe life into those policies to make sure that we can deliver services to our residents.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about how do you feel? I mean, I mentioned in my introduction that you were the first African-American city manager the city has ever had. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. I take a lot of pride in our history. I think anyone that knows me knows that I'm a history nut. I love history. I think a lot of that has to do with my family background and lineage as well. I'm a descendant of Frederick Douglass. Mm-hmm. I've had members of my family that were in the 54th of Massachusetts, so history means a lot to me. Also the fact that I'm not only the first, but I went to an HBCU. I think that's really important. Yeah. When I first moved here from Pennsylvania, my wife's family, they're all in the East Valley. I was applying for jobs in the cities in the East Valley. I couldn't even get an interview. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that my resume had Morehouse College on it, to be honest with you. The first job I applied to in Phoenix was that internal auditor job, and it stuck and it landed right away. So had I done that earlier, I may have been employed a lot sooner than I was, but I'm happy I landed with Phoenix.
It meant it was meant to be. Delayed but not denied, but I'm glad you're here. Tell us a little bit about the things that you were looking forward to in 2024 in the city. What are some of the things that you were looking forward to city completing?
Yeah, 2024 is going to be a busy year. We've got a lot of things that we need to accomplish. You were instrumental, as well as the other council members, for bringing forward the 2023 bond program, and I think now we'll sell those bonds in the early spring, and so bringing to life those projects that our residents voted for. So that's first and foremost. I think the other thing that we've got to prepare for is, the state has taken some actions that will remove revenue from us moving forward, and it's my job to figure out creative solutions to balance our budget while having that revenue go away, but still be able to provide those vital services to our residents. I think the other thing that just comes to mind, last year was extremely hot. And we know this year is not going to be any cooler. And so we've got to find creative and innovative ways to make sure that our unsheltered population don't experience the same things that we experienced last year. And then above and beyond that, I think the other thing is just employee morale. I think when I first started, the city of Phoenix was probably the best run city in the world. We won awards saying that. The middle 2000s were really hard on us because of the Great Recession and some of the other economic things that we went through, and that employee morale, it took a hit. But I think, the last couple of years with what we've done with employee compensation and labor negotiations and then just breathing life and letting our employees know how special and important they are, our employee morale is through the roof. And so I want to continue to make sure that stays where it's at.
That's awesome. As you mentioned, I'm really biased about the bond initiative. I had the opportunity to lead the outreach for that campaign. I too am excited to see those projects start to come online, especially those that are in D8. So, quick shameless plug. But I also, you mentioned, I think one of the things that the city did really well towards the end was our response to addressing the Human Services campus outside the area outside known as the zone. And we anticipate that we will continue to see an increase in homelessness, and you mentioned that's one of the priorities that the city will be focusing on. So I just wanted you to know my staff receives many of calls about those encampments and individuals, and we're ready to provide those services to those individuals. So thank you for all that you do. Quick plug, tell us why employees, why Phoenix is the best place for employees.
Well, one, I think we've got a great elected staff. Our elected officials, they take great pride in the work they do and the services that we provide. I think employees are valued here. The council, we all talk about our most valuable resource is our employees. We win lots of awards and get lots of accolades, and it's on the backs of the employees that are out there every single day. I think our employees, they take great pride in the work they do. And we see people sometimes on their worst day, and it's our job to turn those worst days into some of their best experiences. And I think we have by far the best municipal employees in the entire country.
And also, we completed our class and comp study.
We did. So class and comp study, we made sure that our employees, you guys as a council, you stood behind it. We made sure that our employees were best paid in our market and in our sector. And above and beyond that, we had a great labor negotiations process, first time ever, that we really didn't have to go to impasse, which was great. And so I think it's great for our employees to know that you guys value them and you're willing to do that. The budget that was passed last year, we had a $138 million surplus. 80% of that went to employees. So I think the council has let employees know how special and how important they are.
I definitely would agree. I mean, they are the hands and feet of our city. They're the ones that execute the projects and the programs. They're the ones that answer the phone calls and get things done. So yes, we do value our employees here at the City of Phoenix. Is there anything else you would like to share with us that I haven't covered?
No, I think you've done a great job, and I just want to thank you for being a voice for District 8. Sometimes District 8 is some people think it's forgotten district sometimes. You are a strong advocate. I appreciate the work that we do together. And again, I appreciate the direction that you give us as a city. It's a new perspective, and you have great legal background. So I think that also helps us as we try to navigate some of the policies and the direction that we're moving forward. So I want to thank you for your work with us.
Thank you. It's actually been an honor of my life to serve in this capacity. I've been a lawyer, as you mentioned, for over 20 years, but this is a role in representation that I take very seriously because I know the impact it can have. Yeah. So I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Next up, I will check in with retired Judge Cecil B. Patterson Jr., who was the first African-American judge appointed to the Maricopa County Superior Court and Court of Appeals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have to include Calvin Good in any overview of Black pioneers in Phoenix. Calvin and Georgie Good, they were longtime, not just legislators. He served on the city council for around 20 years as the second African American, but his wife Georgie was also on the Phoenix Elementary and Phoenix Union school district boards. In many ways, this humble couple was known as an advocate for all people. What they were able to do was help desegregate education and create greater educational opportunities for all Arizona students. Due to his long-standing efforts to advocate for equality and justice for all, the Phoenix Municipal Building was renamed the Calvin C. Good Municipal Building in his honor.
Welcome back to Community Connections, Kesha and 8. I'm sitting here with retired Judge Cecil B. Patterson Jr., who served not only as the first African-American judge appointed to the Maricopa County Superior Court and the Court of Appeals, but also as the first African-American practicing law in the Arizona Attorney General's office and the state's appeal courts. Judge Patterson, thank you so much for being here with me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
I have had the honor of serving as your law clerk in your final year as on the Court of Appeals. But for me, what I find to be so remarkable about your journey is that you were the first African American appointed to the Maricopa County Superior Court. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
It was a matter of dedication to development in the legal profession. And you know, I started out in public service in the public defender's office, in community legal services. I tried a little private practice, it didn't work, and I got out real quickly. But I saw sort of the avenue to serve the public through public service itself rather than being in private practice. So I went back to that. And as a result, it was an effort to try and develop as much experience across the board, criminal, civil, courtroom experience, community involvement, getting to know people. I'm not from Phoenix, I'm from Virginia originally. And getting to know people, getting to have people know me, getting to let people know who I am, so to speak. And all of that, I won't say culminated, but propelled me to try, first off, to go on the State Board of Governors. And I spent 2 years on the State Bar Board of Governors. And from that vantage point, I saw a larger, clearer area of development. And I started kind of focusing on areas where I thought I could grow as a lawyer, grow as a person, and to continue to help the community. And one of them was, one way was to go into the practice, into the bench, the trial court, where you could stay at home, do the work, and be in the community at the same time. And it took 8 applications, which, you know, an application takes a lot out of you. A single application takes a lot out of you. 8 times takes an awful lot out of you. But if you have the persistence, as my mom used to say, stick-to-itiveness, you get there, you get home, because you learn a little bit more every time you go in, which happened with me. And finally, I got in there, but it was in large measure because of that, and also a growing community of support. One of the things I didn't have available to me was a large or a substantial, might have been small but substantial, African American legal community. There were only 1, 2, 3, 4 of us practicing in Phoenix at that time. And through legal services, actually, I made a lot of contacts with a lot of senior partners in a number of the major law firms here in Phoenix. That helped me tremendously.
You mentioned that it was a small group. You said it was 4 practicing lawyers at that time. I probably could name a few of them, but one of them I want to talk a little bit. I know a lot about him because of conversations I've had with you and Judge Logan, the late Judge Logan, and that is Hazel B. Daniels. He used to be known as, referred to as the Flying Ebony. He was the first African-American Arizona Republic All-Star athlete. He was the first African-American appointed here in the city as a magistrate judge. Tell us a little bit about Judge Daniels.
Very, very, very helpful gentleman. Very helpful. I knew Judge Daniels primarily by going to his court after he was off the bench. And I'd go back into his, I appeared before him first off. And I'd go back into his chambers and just sit down and talk to him about the community, talk to him about what he thought of ways to get ahead in the community, try to get some ideas about how to get ahead in the community. And he was always receptive, always willing to share. those times that I was able to go back and talk to him. So from that standpoint, my view of him was as a welcoming, accepting, open individual who I assume was very happy to have people join him in the profession.
That's excellent. I mean, there were so many things that you were instrumental in dealing with. One of those, for example, was you were instrumental in the program that eventually became known as our Section 8 voucher.
Right.
But what I most admire about you is your commitment to public service. What advice would you give to a young person that's interested in public service?
Figure out what you're interested in and go after it. If it's volunteering with, I won't call names of the particular organizations because there are so many out there, but if it's children's programs, find a children's program. For me, it was sort of family, children-oriented programs, which I got involved with through my church initially. Head Start, I'll talk about that one. Immediately upon coming to town, I associated with Southminster Presbyterian Church, and we had a Head Start program there. So I was introduced to that, and I saw what it was doing. I saw who it was serving, and I felt very, very strongly about that, and stayed with it.
So what I'm hearing is you definitely, your advice to them is keep pushing forward,
Right.
stay committed.
Exactly.
It took you 8 applications to get on the
Right.
trial court.
Right.
Persistence is a key.
Right.
So Judge Patterson, I can't thank you enough for chatting with me today.
Okay.
Our conversation, which it's of course always great to see you,
Right.
and I really just appreciate everything that you
Okay.
have done. Next up, please stay tuned. After this break, we will talk about legislation with former Senator Leah Landrum Taylor.
In the early 1900s, Phoenix was segregated, and one of the first elementary schools to serve African Americans was the Booker T. Washington School. It opened in 1928 on the southeast corner of 12th Street and Jefferson. The cost was $110,000 for this new 2-story building that served more than 450 students. The school was a symbol of pride for the African American community and served as a place for social gatherings until it closed in 1984. The building still stands today and has been adaptively reused for the offices of New Times and V Digital Services.
Welcome back to Community Connections, Kesha in 8. Our next guest is former Arizona State Senator Leah Landrum Taylor. Senator Landrum Taylor served in the Arizona legislature for 16 years. First in the House of Representatives, then in the Senate, where she represented the 23rd, 16th, and 27th District. She was the first African-American female Senate minority leader. Senator Leah Landrum Taylor, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Tell us a little bit about, well, first, thank you again for coming out, but tell me a little bit about what it means to be the minority leader.
Well, you know, it's that position actually is one of the responsibilities is helping the caucus move along. And at the time when I became the minority leader, I had served in other leadership roles over in the House side, you know, as the whip, and then having an opportunity to serve as assistant minority leader, which was actually quite the privilege of chairing the caucus. So that was actually one of my favorites.
Okay.
But coming in as the minority leader, it was a time where we wanted to make sure we had someone that could truly represent, number one, our caucus, and also be able to work across the aisles and had that, reputation of doing so. So my colleagues had asked, would I be willing to do it? And I said, you know what, okay. And so I went for it. Mm-hmm.
I know this, but to me, that's just a representation, a reflection of your ability to cross the aisle and broker negotiations among different parties and ensure that we are acting in the best interest of Arizona. What are some of your proudest moments as the minority leader?
Well, when we were able to push forward, and during the time we had a lot of health bills that were coming forward, and so we were able to really do a lot regarding that, and that was something really important that we were able to establish. Also during my time, that was a time where it was difficult sometimes when you're in the minority to get bills even heard, let alone passed, and so it was nice that during that time my colleagues had an opportunity to get bills pushed through and to be able to get move forward and get passed into legislation. We also had that little thing of the Medicaid expansion that was going on. And during that time, that was, I would say, one of my most proud moments, that we were able to get that pushed through in a bipartisan fashion.
That's excellent. And I know you have always been a champion for children, especially in adoption and kinship relationships. Grand Families Place is one of, I'm sure, one of your proudest accomplishments. And I would love to speculate and think that as because you are you've come from very strong women. I know your grandmother completed her bachelor's in social work at the age of 68. I see you beaming because I can only imagine how proud you are of her.
Oh, absolutely. And I was 13 years old. I was in 8th grade when I had an opportunity to watch my grandmother walk across the stage at that time as the oldest individual to have graduated from the School of Social Work at Arizona State University, which is one of those moments that just runs chills through your spine. And then my mother too, she was also a social worker and received her bachelor's degree in social work. So having that as an example really taught me the importance of always making sure that you give back. So championing those issues regarding kinship care and foster care, that was something that just was a natural for me. So whether it was dealing with educational issues, environmental issues were another one that I really focused hard on for our community. And these were things that, being a native of Arizona and seeing how our state had changed, my community was changing, and making sure that our community also kept up with the changes and were able to receive the various benefits that other areas were also privy to. So it was a natural fit for me. This was home, but yeah, some strong women throughout. And again, as a 3rd generation native here of this state, I'm glad we had an opportunity to be a part of at least, maybe not planting the first cactus, but putting a little water on them from time to time.
Yes, no, definitely. You're probably a mentor and a role model for so many. I had the honor of talking with Judge Patterson earlier in the judicial arena, and now I get to talk to you in the legislative arena. You were a trailblazer in many sense of the word when it comes to that. So on behalf, I just want to say thank you for all that you've done and all of those that you've mentored, including myself. There are plenty of bills right now. We're in the Senate. Our legislature is in full swing, and there are plenty of bills right now. I'm just curious, is there anything that is piquing your interest?
Well, I would say, I know there's a lot of bills that have been introduced, like 1,500 bills that have been introduced, and so it's going to be a busy session. But certainly, I think that the biggest thing is just to make sure that everyone has something that is really important that was taught to me by my mentors, and that is work together. And that's the big thing that I would hope to see in the legislature, is that everyone could work together. But certainly I know we have, our African American Commission, our African American Legislative Day conferences coming up. So it's some good things that are on the horizon that will be moving forward.
Yeah. Personally, I'm looking, as a member of AMWA, I'm looking at the water bills. We have quite a bit of them going on, but like you, I hope that we are able to work together and come up with something that works for everyone. What advice would you give me as a member of council on how to work best with the legislature to making sure that our voices are heard on behalf of not only the city, but particularly my District 8 residents?
Well, I think, it's really important, first of all, to make sure you have a really good working relationship with those that you cross over. So for your District 11, I believe it is where your representatives, your senators are. And I know when I was in the legislature, I worked very closely with the council member that was present. And that was really helpful, because the bottom line in all of it is, when our communities see us, they don't always delineate of the various offices. It's just there are needs that are out there. And if we're working together with the city, with the county, with the state, with the federal, it just makes it a lot better. So that would be the advice I would give. And then certainly branching out to the other legislatures as well. When you have issues, whether it's regarding water or whatever it is that the focus is that you're working on, make sure that you talk with those that are leading those various committees and meet with them. And they can get to know you and understand what's important to your district. And in the end, it might be a district, but we are still all part of City of Phoenix. We all still are part of the state of Arizona. So work in that way. That would be the advice I'd give.
Thank you. Advice well noted, advice taken. I just want to say thank you so much, Senator Landrum Taylor, for sitting down with me today and chatting with me. I truly appreciate you taking the time.
The pleasure's mine.
Thank you for spending this time with us. If you have any questions or comments, please call my office at 602-262-7493 or visit my website, Phoenix.gov/District 8. I look forward to seeing you next time on Community Connections, Kesha and 8.